The Raptors, the only Canadian team in the NBA. In case you forgot or didn't know, I am a Toronto Raptors fan. Since 1995, the Raptors have represented the true North. But also that year, another Canadian team joined the league with the Raptors. They were poorly run, they never won, and were screwed over repeatedly by the league and other factors. That team was the Vancouver Grizzlies. Play the intro. In 1995, the National Basketball Association awarded two franchises to Canada, Toronto and Vancouver. It was the first time since 1946 that professional basketball came to Canada, since the Toronto Huskies folded. We all know the Toronto franchise was named the Raptors. The Vancouver franchise was originally going to be called the Mounties. Only one problem. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police weren't fond of the name and Vancouver was unable to secure a trademark. So they went with another option. Grizzlies. Vancouver started their inaugural season pretty well, pulling off close wins including a buzzer beater in their home opener. At 2-0, there was promise with this new team. Except they collapsed. Hard. The losing skids, the Scouts and Browns, are potatoes compared to the Grizzlies. 19 straight losses. They wouldn't win another game until mid-December. They decided that 19 wasn't enough of a skid, so they went on a longer losing streak. An NBA record 23 straight losses. A final record of 15-67. Dead last in the league. But at least they can get the first overall pick with this abysmal record. There was a catch. Neither the Grizzlies nor the Raptors were eligible for the first overall pick that year. It's not like Vancouver missed out on anyone, just a generational talent in Allen Iverson. He went to Philadelphia. This rule denying the first overall pick to both Canadian teams was intact for a few years and would go on to hurt the Grizzlies in the future. Back on topic. Vancouver got the third overall pick in the draft. They selected Sharif Abdul-Rahim. He was solid for them, but the Grizzlies could have had Kobe Bryant or Canadian product Steve Nash. New year, fresh start, right? Nope. Vancouver finished their second season with a slightly worse 14-68 record. This season included at least 6 different 5 or more game losing streaks. From mid-February to mid-March, the Grizzlies lost 15 straight games. Another year in last place, another year unable to get the first overall pick. This year was the Tim Duncan lottery. He went to San Antonio. The Grizzlies slid to the 4th pick and selected Antonio Daniels. He only lasted 74 games. Vancouver did get better. In the 97-98 season, they won 19 games. 19 games in an 82-game season for a 19-63 record. They weren't last in the league this time. Yay? There was actually some semblance of promise for the Grizzlies. The lockout-shortened 1998-99 season squashed any hope Vancouver may have had. The Grizzlies were welcomed back to last place with an 8-42 record. That season featured several losing streaks, including a 13-game losing streak. They lost the lottery to Chicago as well. Even then, Vancouver had the second overall pick. Steve Francis was projected to go second overall. There's only one tiny problem. He didn't want to go to Vancouver. He publicly stated that he wouldn't play for the Grizzlies if they drafted him. The Grizzlies didn't care and drafted him anyway. Francis was given beautiful freedom as he was traded to the Houston Rockets before even playing a game in Vancouver. So why did he refuse to play for the Grizzlies? Well, it's an interesting story. Before he was traded to Houston, Francis was considering changing his mind about not playing in Vancouver, until he got to the Vancouver International Airport. He stated to reporters that he was excited to play for the Grizzlies, until he and his brothers, who traveled with him, were mistaken for a rap group by a ticket counter. That was the moment that changed Francis' mind about playing in BC. There were problems off the court as well. The Grizzlies were bleeding money, due to lost revenue, a weak Canadian dollar, poor performance on the court, and wanting to focus more on the NHL's Canucks. Orca Bay Sports and Entertainment, the owner of the two Vancouver teams, decided to put the Grizzlies up for sale. In September of 1999, Bill Laurie, the owner of the St. Louis Blues, bought the Grizzlies with the intention of moving the team to the Gateway City. St. Louis hasn't had a team since 1968 when the Hawks moved to Atlanta. Despite this, NBA Commissioner at the time, David Stern, blocked the sale, keeping the Grizzlies in Vancouver. He wanted the Grizzlies to stay in BC and wasn't keen on moving them almost 5 years into their existence. As a St. Louisan, it would be an alternate history seeing the St. Louis Grizzlies take the court at Enterprise Center. Anyway, Stern would later regret not allowing Laurie to move the Grizzlies to St. Louis. There was good news and bad news for the Vancouver Grizzlies. The good news is, in the 1999-2000 season, they finally won 20 games in a season. The bad news? They burned through 2 coaches and finished 22-60. Fans were leaving in droves. At least the Grizzlies finally found an owner when Chicago native Michael Heisley bought the team. He stated throughout his first press conference that he would keep the Grizzlies in Vancouver and make them successful. That seems promising. I didn't even get to the best part of this. During this stretch, the Grizzlies were never above 500. They haven't been above 500 since their first season. They were finally above 500 when they won their first 4 or 5 games to start the season. That's when Groundhog Day struck the Grizzlies. Several losing skids and Vancouver sank in the standings. The Grizzlies finished 23-59, which is the best record in their entire history. Speaking of which, how has ownership been? Behind the scene, Heisley was losing money and looking at other cities. Fans in Vancouver wanted the team to stay, and Heisley claimed to have offered a discount for any Vancouver-based owner who wanted to buy the team. But how convenient, no groups appeared. On March 26, 2001, hearts were shattered across British Columbia when Heisley announced the Grizzlies will be moving to Memphis, Tennessee the next season. In 6 seasons, the Grizzlies went 101-359. Their best finish was 11th in the West in their 3rd season. Vancouver burned through 5 head coaches in 6 years. The Grizzlies were above 500 in only 2 seasons, and they were at the beginning of their first and last season. It would take a while for the Memphis Grizzlies to become relevant. In 2013, the Grizzlies made their only conference finals appearance, but were stomped and swept by the Spurs. After some rebuilding years, the Grizzlies are one of the strongest yet most polarizing teams. Ja Morant, despite all the talent, is a lightning rod. If the Grizzlies don't put a target on their back like last year, they have a chance to be a threat in the West. Throughout the Grizzlies' struggles, the Toronto Raptors went through struggles of their own, either finishing in the basement or losing in the first or second round. The Raptors never made it to the 3rd round until 2016. In 2019, Toronto ended the misery and brought a title to Canada after crushing the Magic in 5 games, edging the 76ers in a buzzer-beater Game 7, coming back from a 2-0 deficit against the Bucks, and upsetting the Warriors in 6 games. While Vancouver didn't win the championship, all of Canada celebrated the Raptors' championship. Vancouver hasn't had a team since the Grizzlies left. Maybe one day an NBA team will return to BC. It might give Vancouver a distraction from the Canucks. Too soon? I don't care. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I'll see you in the next video.